Good. I will call you. I'm glad to meet you.
Ja, my good friend was the Paul Colonel, he was the agent from Rommel.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
2 years ago in Germany and Hamburg.
Yeah.
And he came over here, really speeches in Lamar and all. But they don't invite him.
We're off.
Colorado Commision, just kind of hold your hands up so we'll go. Those with the Commission Post 33 is making that organization of this Ladies Auxiliary. Okay, and we also have Legion Post 817, American Legion Post. Glad you came. Thank you very much. Miss Thomas, I believe, president of that one. Okay, now, are there any other American Legion representatives here that I missed? Okay. Good day. It looks like for a while this morning it was going to be kind of wet and kind of cool, but I think it's really nice. Now, and we're so glad that you've come, and I know that you know that the auxiliary is honoring the MIAs today on this Veterans Day, and that's what our little ribbons represent that we have on today. I think that, do we have any representatives from the towns of China and Naomi, city councilman that is here? Oh, I'm just, we appreciate everyone coming. And who else am I supposed to be? And Mr. Ashton Thomas, who is the commander of Legion Post 817, will do our benediction at the end of our program. Mildred Wright will read the memoirs of the prisoner of war of the China camp.
I made contact with the daughter of a prisoner who had been here, and he sent a letter to her, which she translated, and asked that it be read at this meeting. My father, Irwin Rother, was a prisoner at the prisoner of war camp in China during World War II. He was born October the 7th, 1926 in Gretwitz, Poland, and was drafted into the German Army at age 17. His unit was 3rd Regiment, 148th Infantry Division. My father was the radio operator in his regiment and worked with the news service. On August the 17th, 1944, he was captured by the American forces in south of France. The direct location was a small town called Freitas, near San Rafael. The American forces transported him from France to Italy, then to Tunis, and from there by ship to New York. They went by the train from New York to Huntsville. He was sent from Huntsville to China, Texas in the early 1945, where he stayed about 15 months, up until about mid-March 46. The first 9 or 10 days in China, he worked in cotton fields. After the first day, he went to work the rice fields for one season. He worked for a farmer with a German name, who was also of German descent. He later went on to a logging detail, making daily trips in trucks to the Woodrow area. The commandant of his unit in China was a fellow German prisoner named Lang, a teacher by profession. The prisoners played ping pong, punch ball, sang folk songs, military songs for their entertainment. She gives a German song. I don't speak German. All prisoners slept in tents. My father was released and transported to Camp Shanks, New York in April 1946. The American forces transported German prisoners to Lahore, France, where they loaded the prisoners to the French, loaned the prisoners to the French. My father was deported to Pasteur, France, where he and the other prisoners were used to work in a coal mine. He was finally released from the prison camp in November the 30th, 1948. My father's friend, Mayer, a fellow prisoner in China, lived in the same town as my father, but he died last year, and she wrote this in 1997. My father does not know of any other survivors of the China camp still living at this point. In October 1996, for my father's 70th birthday, I accompanied my father back to Texas to revisit the site that used to be the hospital POW camp. Tells that they are living now in the Palatine County in Germany. And excuse me. And at this time, she was a teacher in Marlborough, Massachusetts. Thank you.
We do have a very, very special guest with us today, Mr. Keiling. This is Hans Keiling. He was a German prisoner of war for the Russians for 7 years.
7.5 years.
And he's a delight to talk to, and he wants to make a special presentation this morning.
Good morning, all you good friends.
Good morning.
When I see you, I still get choked up. Many, many years we was fighting each other. Of course, I am not. I was never fighting an American soldier. I put my foot over the border in 1941 into Soviet Union, and I was the last one out of the Soviet Union when they pushed us back into Czechoslovakia. I was a sergeant major, a tank commander in the 8th Tank Division, and you all know the feared King Tiger tank with the 88. So they couldn't shut me down, and when May the 8th, 1945, the alarm came at 12 o'clock midnight, we surrender. I said, I am not surrendering to the Communist Soviet Union because I had 2 skeleton heads on my segment at the Russian head. They order anyone from the SS to be killed on sight, even if they got their hands up or a red, white flag on it. So I made my mind up. I know as a division tank commander where the American liners, they already came over the Elbe River into Czechoslovakia, the 7th Army. I got some write-ups here from them. I'm very tied together with them and wider. And I surrendered to the American troops, including my whole King Tiger tank. But we didn't know that the American and Russian had a agreement. Everyone that was fighting the Russian, they had to give him back. So I was in an American prisoner of war camp for 2 days. I had wonderful food, cigarettes and chocolate, and I was happy that was I a prisoner of the Americans. But 2 days after in the morning, we had orders to line up on the gate, and to my, I was very disappointed. I saw on the other side the Russian in jeeps and with a white ribbon round, and then we noticed they had to give us back. And from then on, I was 7.5 years in North Siberia, 70 miles over the Arctic Circle under 45 degrees below zero normal temperature for 7.5 years in a coal mine. But in 1953, in March, Stalin died, and there came an amnesty. They got two parties only in Russia, like here, the Democrats and the Republican, they got the Stalinists and Leninists. And anyone blames it on the other one. And they said I shouldn't be there that long. So they released me at Christmas 1953, and I escaped to West Berlin right away. I wanted to go back to the West and have a chance to go to Texas. My uncle, and many of you in this age would know, was the owner of the Gulfport Shipbuilding Corporation in Port Arthur, Bruno Schultz. He got heard that I got released and I'm still alive, and he got me over into Texas. And I said, that's where I wanted to be. I saw enough snow in my life. I don't want to see no more snow. And now it got so hot here. But I'm very happy to be with all together, especially I'm very proud of you in the organization that you finally recognize that we soldiers don't want to fight each other and kill each other. General Westmoreland once said, we soldiers do not make any war. The politicians make the war. And you see it through all the time I'm here. I'm now 44 years in Texas. And they always said, oh, now Germany is kaput. No more war. We're going to have peace. And now we got 36 wars going more than ever. But you all know it. And I'm speaking the truth. I made lots of speeches in Fort Hood. I trained some of the officers before the Gulf War, and they used the tactic, auch in German of course. General Schwarzkopf used the tactic, and they won the war right away. Now I don't like to make a long speech here. I only want to say I appreciate what you did, that finally somebody recognized that all the prisoners are under the same pressure. We didn't want to fight each other, like I said, and we don't want to kill each other. We want to live in peace, and there's nothing better in this world to have peace. Like we all know here, we have peace here, and you see it in Israel, in the Palestinian, what's going on. I thank you very much for listening to me, and don't hold anything against me, because we are all friends now, and the past is past, and life has to go on. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yes, Achtung! Stillgestanden! Präsentiert das Gewehr. Richtig. in the name of the democratic New Germany, I'm representing Germany from the headquarters in Berlin. I present to you and to this organization the German New Flag without a swastika. We are all friends together. And thank you very much for doing that. Take this in honor. Das Gewehr. Immer. Danke. On the sick. Oh, yeah.
I think Miss Sandra Kiker Sherman and Officer Kiker now are going to talk about the prison.
I'm Sandra Kiker Sherman. I live here in China, and I was asked to interview my mom and her sister-in-law as to the recollections that they have. The prisoners of war that were here in China did work for our family when they were here. My mother is Dorothea Kiker. My aunt is Iris Dow. Both of them still live on our farm. They both remember cooking for the prisoners. They had stew, rice, and beans. They remembered seeing that the guards were on horseback with the guns. Even though they had a great language barrier, the men seemed to be talking, joking, and laughing. They did not seem to be afraid. They remember them being young, large, blonde men. One day my aunt remembered taking my cousin, Carrie, who was about 2, with her when she went to the rice field. And one of the prisoners came over and smiled and talked to him. Of course, no one knew what he had said because there was such a language barrier. But he took out a picture of his own child and showed it to all the ladies that were there. That was the main thing that they remembered, was that seeing them and doing the cooking every day for them, but they never did ever think that they were afraid or anything. They just remembered that they appeared to be, like he said, happy to be here.
Well, she gave it. I'm Buzz Kiker. I'm C.A. Kiker, Red Kiker's son. I'm going to kind of tell it to you the way Sandra was too young to remember. I was 8 or 9 years old at the time, so what I'm telling you will be coming from the eyes of an 8-year-old kid, the way I viewed it, or the way I remembered it. I think, one, we knew that there were prisoners of war and they were German prisoners. We knew that as kids. We knew there was a war going on, but I don't think we ever really knew what the consequences would be if we lost the war or won the war. Fortunately, in our view, we won the war, and we're very fortunate to have done that. I remember as a kid, they hauled the prisoners on the back of the big truck. Hauled them every day, went and got the prisoners, took them to the fields. They sat on the truck with their feet hanging off and a couple guards on the truck, and us kids waving at them as they went up and down the street. Roads, I'd say, back in Pinette at that time. I remember I'm working in a field between Hampshire and Pinette. It was my dad's and my uncle's farm. And if there were guards posted out there, one of the things I remember distinctly as a kid is that one guard was sitting over at the truck, he was asleep with his gun leaning against the door. One of my brothers told me that he was at least had the clip out of the gun in his pocket. But, you know, it was a trusting type of situation. Nobody seemed to be afraid that anything was going to happen. I remember going out there one day and walking by the thrasher, and this was back before they had combines and stuff like that, where they shocked rice and thrashed it. We had a crew in the field bringing in the shock, the crew working the thrasher, and I remember us going there one day, and one of the Germans, and they were all, as she said, big blonde guys, you know. Maybe today they wouldn't be so big and blonde if I stood up, but when I was 8 years old, they were big and blonde. And one of them, they liked to pick at us kids. One of them put his pitchfork out and offered to let us get on his pitchfork and go into the thrasher. And then they all had a big laugh. You know, there was a communication barrier. We didn't understand them other than through their motions. And I do remember my mother and my aunt feeding. One of my brothers remembered that we wasn't allowed to give them gifts, but my mother sent them candles. They were in this area during Christmas time, and they could give them candles, apparently so they could have light in their tents or be able to see or read by or something else. Another thing that one of my other brothers, remember my daddy distinctly telling him, was that, as most of you know, the Germans are pretty big on beer drinking, and so my dad bought them some beer one day, which was probably a real no-no. But and they appreciated that. So there was a relationship there that, as the gentleman said, could have been a real hate relationship, but I don't remember that. The opportunity was there that we were shooting at each other in the other parts of the world, but over here it seemed to be a real good relationship, and everybody seemed to have got along real good with it. I thank you for inviting me.
We have a Jefferson County market chairman that's here today. He is the two, and he's going to dedicate the market. So let's move over here, and we'll have
the Jefferson County Historical Commission marker chairman, and as such, I accept the marker on behalf of the Texas State Historical Commission and the County Historical Commission. I'd also like to dedicate the marker in the memory of A.J. Guidry, who lived from 1909 to 1998 and had done a lot of local history here in this area, and it's probably because of him that we're at this point today as far as recognizing knowledge in the history in China. And also to the memory, to dedicate to Erwin Rother, who was interned at this camp, and to all the other prisoner of war that were interned at this camp. I'd also like to acknowledge Mildred Wright, who took it upon herself to piece everything together and come up with the final product, which is what we have here today. So there are a lot of people involved, a lot of time and effort, and a lot of thought that went into this process. And it's a very important process, and it's a very important slice of the history in Jefferson County. So I officially accept the marker on behalf of the Historic Commission. Mr. Thornton, Mr. Dishman, go ahead and hit the tab. Both things are on the right, if not to the left, we'll go ahead and unveil it. Yeah. I'd like to go ahead and read the inscription on the marker, and that certainly is a handsome marker. The sun really reflects off it nicely. The inscription's also printed on the inside of the flyer here. Begins the site of World War II prisoner of war camp, China Branch Camp. The reduction of the labor force in the United States during World War II prompted the use of prisoners of war as laborers for various agricultural interests. The responsibility of the Texas Agricultural Extension Service at Texas A&M University, the program in Jefferson County was supervised by J.M. Combs, County Extension Agent. Combs determined the farm labor needs of the county and analyzed the local labor supply to coordinate his efforts with those of the base POW camp in Huntsville. The camp at Huntsville, one of the largest base camps in Texas, opened early in 1943. Its first prisoners were members of Rommel's African Corps who had been captured in North Africa. German prisoners came from the European theater of operations as well. Temporary branch camps were established in areas such as China, which were too distant from the base camp for daily round trips. The China branch camp opened in September 1944 on this site. The U.S. government leased the property from the Stanley Oil and Gas Company. Local farmers and others wishing to use the day labor provided by prisoners picked them up at the camp in the morning and returned them each night. German soldiers performed general farm labor at 25 cents per hour and harvested rice for $3 a day. They also worked as loggers. In January 1945, there were 148 prisoners at the China camp. At its peak in August 1945, the camp housed 403 prisoners. The China camp was open only 15 months. It closed in December 1945, and its 350 prisoners returned to Huntsville, then eventually to Germany. At the dawn of the 21st century, the only remnant of the China base camp was the water well, the official marker. Thank you. Ron?
Mr. Dixon, you want to set the mark on the house?
Well, on behalf of the Dixon family and Southeast Texas, we surely accept this marker. And like the gentleman said earlier, we accept it in a manner of peace. Thank
He
you.
said he's going to clean them off for every morning. Again, we appreciate all of you coming and to stay and talk for a few minutes. And Mr. Ashton Thomas, too, is the commander of the American Legion Post 817. Will have our benediction.
Brother, please. Thank you, Father, for what our eyes have seen. Thank you for what our ears have seen. And may the strength of God sustain us. May the power of God preserve us. May the hand of God protect us. May the way of God direct us. And may the shield of God defend us. Amen.
We'll have the retirement of colors. Thank you very much for coming, everyone.